Mr. Bryant, if you would introduce yourself and please give us your DOC number.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Djohn M. My DOC number is 567-564.
Thank you. Mr. Bryant, today we're going to have a parole revocation hearing. I want to explain our process to you. First, I'm going to cover with you your parole revocation questionnaire. Then I'm going to read the allegations of how it's alleged you violated your parole. Then I'm going to ask you to plead either not guilty with a statement, guilty, or guilty with a statement. And then those persons who wish to have input will have an opportunity to speak. Here today supporting you is Brian Loss, who is a social worker, Gia Armstrong, who is your girlfriend, and your attorney, Mr. Jack Lubin, is present. Mr. Lubin, if you would please make an appearance for the record.
Good morning, board. Thanks for having us, and thank you for rescheduling us on short notice. Jack Lubin here on behalf of Djohn Bryant.
Thank you. Mr. Lubin, Mr. Bryant, do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
Do you have your parole revocation questionnaire before you?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Is that your signature at the bottom, dated August the 24th of 2023?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall filling out this questionnaire?
Yes.
Or when you filled them out, were these answers all accurate and correct?
Yeah.
Are they still accurate and correct today?
Yeah.
Okay. You are currently represented by Mr. Jack Lubin. Are you prepared to go forward today with your hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to read you the allegations and I'm going to ask you how you plead. If you wish to consult with Mr. Lubin before you plead, that's perfectly understandable. So number 4, on 7/17 of 2023, you were arrested by the New Orleans Police Department for battery of a dating partner. On August the 3rd of 2023, the charges were refused by the district attorney's office. I'm going to ask that in 2 separate questions. On 7/17 of 2023, you were arrested by the New Orleans Police Department for battery of a dating partner. How do you plead to that charge?
Not guilty.
Okay. And then on August the 3rd of 2023, the charges were refused by the district attorney's office. I assume that's just a statement of fact and everybody will accept that. Number 5, you were in possession of a firearm as indicated on police report number C-00016-23. How do you plead to that charge?
Not guilty.
Okay. Mr. Bryant, your case has been assigned to Mr. Alvin Roche. He will begin our process of interviewing you for this hearing. Would you please answer any questions he might have?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Bryant.
Morning.
Mr. Bryant, you pled not guilty to both of the charges. Explain to me why you were arrested and what circumstances were you arrested under?
Okay. I would like it started. I would start off from the day that it happened, which was I was arrested 4 months after the incident. It started the incident was on March 1st, date back from March 1st of this year. I was dealing with my ex, and I went there. I went to her house to retrieve some of my belongings from her house, and while I was there, we got into an argument. I tried to leave as I left the house. She ran behind me and stole the car that I was in and drove the car into the basketball goal and jumped out of the car. And when I got I was yelling, and when I got back in the car, I pulled off. And she called the police. She called NOPD and told NOPD that we had a physical altercation. NOPD came to the scene. NOPD found the ring cam. They had got a ring camera from across the street, which was in the ring camera, which would support everything that I said, that I just stated. it happened in March, and my parole officer called me. I go see my parole officer every month. I don't have no problem. I go.
Okay, just tell me what happened.
Okay, when I went to go see my parole officer, he called me in and he told me that I had a warrant out for my arrest for battery on a dating partner.
And then you were arrested.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was in 2023.
Yes, sir.
Had you had any previous arrests for domestic abuse?
Which was I was arrested before with the same situation with the same person. That's why we wasn't together.
Okay, so basically you were reprimanded on July 6, 2022 by your parole officer for domestic abuse and a gun charge. Is that correct?
No, sir. I was arrested for domestic abuse.
Sir, were you reprimanded by your parole officer on July 6, 2022 for domestic abuse and gun charges?
Sir, I was remanded for domestic abuse. I didn't get remanded for the gun charge. They didn't charge me with a violation for a gun charge till weeks later, till after the domestic charge was dropped.
But
I have two.
Sir, you're not understanding my question. Were you reprimanded for domestic abuse and a firearm charge on July 6, 2022 by your parole officer?
Yes, sir.
Now, prior to that reprimand, had you had any other domestic abuse issues with the same victim?
Yes, it's been times where both of us called the NOPD and NOPD never showed up. There's been times where NOPD was called and NOPD talked to both us and released both of us on the scene.
Well, in my report, in the preliminary hearing, the parole officer entered into the record that there were at least 2 or 3 prior arrests in 2021 for domestic abuse with the same victim. Is that true?
No, sir. It was only one arrest. NOPD was called out to the scene of the house. NOPD was called to our house multiple times, but I only was arrested one time.
Okay. So 1 second, Mr. Djohn. According to my information at the preliminary hearing, it was entered into the record by the parole officer that you had an arrest in 2021. The police report was G-134-50-21. The second one was J-09-248-21. The third one was a police report L-0547021, and all of those were in 2021. So there was a police report where all the charges were dropped. So you were arrested 3 times in 2021 based upon domestic abuse and gun charges with the same victim. Is this information incorrect?
Yes, sir. I was only arrested one time in 21, sir.
Okay. But there were 3 police reports on domestic abuse battle. Have you ever had a program that dealt with domestic abuse or domestic abuse or violence in the last 5 or 10 years?
I haven't had a program that dealt with domestic abuse, but I have had a program that dealt with anger management.
Anger management is good, but there is specialized treatment for domestic abuse violence. And most of them call it the DBOC program. Have you ever had the DBOC program?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Wise has a question for you, Mr. Bryant.
There was an indication that you had a newborn baby. Who is the mother of that child?
Right here, Guy Armstrong.
Oh, Miss. So when did the relationship with Shonderick Condell, when did that relationship end?
That ended in 2021 July 21 when I was released from prison.
But you were.
I'm sorry, July of 22 when I was released from prison.
Okay, when you were released 3/2 of 21, right?
Yes, ma'am. I was released from my 5-year sentence.
Yeah, when you said released from prison, that's what you're referring to?
No, ma'am. I'm referring to the incident that happened when the police were called and I was in jail. I think like 7 months.
Okay. Oh, okay. It was after the domestic battery stuff. You did.
That's why I was in jail for 7 months. And
Okay.
when I came home, I stopped the relationship with her.
Okay. So going back, you went over to the house, you said, to get your property, and you weren't able to get your property. Have you ever gotten your property from her house?
No, ma'am.
What you gonna do about that?
At this point, I don't need much care for, like,
That's what I want to hear you say. I was hoping you were gonna be bright enough to say that. The property can stay there, right? Because you on parole. Whatever she got, she can keep it. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. That's the answer I'm hoping you had. And so that the newborn babies is with Miss Oakwood. And how old was the newborn baby?
4 months.
4 months, okay. This incident where you got shot April the 24th of 21, right after you got out. What was the outcome of that?
I was at the bus stop and I was actually somebody robbed me, and as I was being robbed, I tried to tussle with him for the weapon. Like I didn't know what else to do.
Who had the weapon?
Him. I was shot in my I was shot in my lower left leg.
Uh-huh.
And I was shot at the bus stop, and I just ran. I ran. My grandmother's house was right there, so I just ran back to my grandmother's house and called 911. Called the ambulance.
Did they ever find who did it or anything? Were any charges ever brought or anything?
Not to my knowledge, NOPD never got back in touch with me or nothing. Like that.
Yeah, because you listed as a victim in that, they would notify you, you know, most likely when something happened. So you saying that was just a random act, you weren't involved in anything?
No, ma'am.
It's a random act.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I was just released from prison, and I was just standing at the.
Go ahead.
I was just standing at the bus stop and like my family supported me. So like, you know, they gave me I ain't gonna say a lot of money, but you know, I had a couple of dollars to my name.
Yeah, and you wasn't handling it very discreetly. Somebody could see it, huh?
Right. I was at the bus stop, you know, and when I looked up, somebody was there with a permanent gun in my face.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad it didn't end in the worst of that, because the videotape showed you handing something to somebody, and it was appeared to be a gun, but you denied that statement. You denied that information.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't. Well, what did you hand the person that was standing over you?
My car keys. Well, my grandma house keys with her car key on there.
Oh, okay.
If I would have listened to her and took her car, I wouldn't have been shot.
So who was this person? You handed them your keys for what?
I handed my grandma house keys
For what?
to take off me to give to my grandmother. Cause I knew I was going to the hospital. So I just gave him the keys to get to my grandmother.
Oh,
Cause
okay.
she wouldn't have been able to get to work because I would have been in the hospital with a car key.
Oh, okay. But you at the bus station with her keys.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
That don't make sense to me.
I was at the bus station. She gave me her keys. She wanted me to take her car, but I didn't take her car.
You took her keys with her thinking you was gonna take her car.
Yes, ma'am. But I
Then
didn't.
you changed your mind. You changed your mind.
Yes, ma'am. The reason why I didn't take her car because I would have had to put gas in there. I would have had to be back on when she wanted me to be back, and I didn't. I felt like I'm a grown man.
But you said be back because you had her keys.
Right. So, but I would still had to be back, because that's her vehicle, and I ain't want no trouble like that.
Okay. I know. But now, what I'm trying to understand, you on parole, you just got out from doing 5 years. You do know you can't have your name on a police report for nothing. And after that first incident and the parole officer reprimanded you, then you go back to her house. Now, help me understand that.
After the first incident, which happened in 21,
Yes.
I was arrested and I got released.
Wait a minute. Here's the question. I want to know your thinking. I'm just trying to figure out how you plan on doing your parole. You got a break from your officer. They reprimanded you. You still on parole. You still were walking. You still had your freedom. Why did you go back and deal with her and have the police call again instead of thinking about your freedom? Help me understand that.
The situation that happened was when I went back, I only went back.
Situation. I want to hear about you and your parole.
I was going back to get my clothes, to get my property and stuff. But I didn't. It wasn't no, oh, I'm still here, or we was talking or anything like that. Like I went back to get my stuff, and when I saw it got to a heated argument to where I wasn't getting my stuff, I told same thing I told you, can have it, and I tried to leave. When I walked to the car, that's what the situation happened. I didn't talk to her since I was released. I was released, and when I was released in July was the last time I talked to her.
So you didn't even call her and tell her you was coming? You didn't call her and ask her, could you come get your stuff? You just showed up.
Yes, ma'am.
You think that was smart?
No, ma'am.
That's all I had. Thank you, Tim.
How long you been in prison? How long you been in jail, Mr. Bryant?
I've been in jail almost 4 months.
Were you working when this happened?
Yes, sir.
Where were you working?
I was working for Center for Employment Opportunities, and I was working as a dishwasher at Mother's.
Is it possible for you to get those jobs back?
Yes, sir.
Let's hear from your supporters. Let's hear from your girlfriend, Ms. Armstrong.
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong, if you'll introduce. Whoa.
My name.
You too, boss.
You're on mute now. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. No, you got something over there.
I think we may need to mute the OJC.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I'm
Okay,
Guy.
good. That's better. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about Mr. Bryant.
My name is Guy Armstrong, and Djohn and I dated years back. He's a great father. He's a great father. He's a great partner. I've seen Djohn mature over the years. We actually dealt almost a decade now. We dated in 2015. And it actually was I was caught by surprise when we got back together. But when he was arrested, our daughter had made 3 weeks, and he was actually able to be the entire pregnancy. He was very supportive. He was just like my backbone. He was also a great stepdad to my 4-year-old daughter that I have. She's not with her dad, but she could say the same. So it's been pretty rough with him not being here because I've been taking up on everything myself. And he hasn't seen his daughter. See, she looks just like him. But he's a great guy. I think this is really an eye opener, and also just I feel like he should be released back home to reunite with his daughter. I feel like he has matured, and I think it's just time. I know I've been going through it on this end, so I can imagine him not being able, or just imagining how his child looked at 4 months when he last seen her at 3 weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. We appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Mr. Lars.
Yes, greetings, board members. My name is Brian Larson. I'm a social worker with the Orleans Public Defender's Office. During my assessment, and I've met with Djohn on several occasions and built a very positive relationship, a therapeutic relationship with him. And I tell you, one of the most important things that I identified during the assessment is that he could benefit from some additional support. So I did refer him to like First 72, where he can participate in some mentoring and peer support groups and learn some coping skills and life skills. And additionally, our office will, be actively case managing his case and coordinate with probation and parole to make sure that he's staying on task with everything. As Djohn mentioned, he was working for CEO Works as a groundsman, and he's been working there, I think, maybe almost 2 years. So he'll be, going back to work. He's gainfully employed, and he has an opportunity to work directly with me, and which I think is a plus because, I could help him navigate through difficult situations, identify triggers, identify problematic situations, what I'm saying, that will prevent him from being in a situation that he's in. I work with so many people with similar situations as Djohn. I think Djohn is trying to do all the right things. He's trying to do all the right things. So it is the opinion of the Orleans Public Defender's Office is that, Djohn gets another chance, to work, to be united with his family and also to work with this amazing team that we have here. We have a CSD department that consists of other social workers, client advocates, and, all the work that I do will be complemented by all those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have one question. Sir, what about that 18-week domestic abuse battery DBOC program? Do you think he could benefit from that? Do you have an avenue for him to take that?
We have we work closely with CADA, which is located right here in our building at 2601 Tulane Avenue, who offers domestic violence, anger management, all those type of classes. And I could definitely refer him to CADA to receive those classes.
Would that benefit him better than the First 72 and what they offering? Because he got a new relationship, although they're on their honeymoon stage, and you and I both know, that's the honeymoon stage, what they're in now, and these things change. I just want to get your opinion, your professional opinion.
I'm sorry, what was that question? Do I think what?
I want to get a professional opinion about whether or not the First 72 and their resources would suit him, or a DBOC program would suit him.
Well, I think the First 72 would definitely, benefit Djohn because, I've been working with First 72 for the past probably almost 5 years that I've been here at the Public Defender's Office. Some of those guys are formerly incarcerated individuals. They have amazing peer support group and they teach these type of skills that I'm talking about, because so many of the guys come through, with cases like this, and I've seen some amazing work at First 72. So that's why I prioritize First 72. But
Okay,
I also think that CADA is a great program as well. I work closely with both of them.
okay, all right. I just wanted to put that out there and just see what you thought. Thank you. That's all I had, Chairman.
All right. Mr. Lubin, I assume you want Mr. Bryant to speak first and then you'll close out?
That works. Thank you very much, Board.
Okay. Mr. Bryant, is there anything you'd like to say before the board turns it over to Mr. Lubin?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Mr. Lubin?
Yeah, thank you so much, Board, and thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Thank you, Brian, for being here. The first thing before I get into what I'd prepared to say, I just want to say some things that are responsive to some of the questions and the back and forth between the board and Mr. Bryant. I know sometimes, especially in Mr. Bryant's shoes, these hearings can be a little bit confusing, and I want to make sure that any back and forths that might have looked like Mr. Bryant was attempting to dodge questions are just addressed on my end, specifically with respect to board member Roche's questions about the arrests. I'm a bit confused about the situation myself because I found out about some of these when at the parole prelim, but I just want to clarify for the board that, of course, board member Roche is correct that there were 3 police reports that went out in 2021. Mr. Bryant is also correct that they were all executed on one date. When Mr. Bryant was arrested on January 31st of 2022, he was brought in on those 3 warrants. I want to clarify that for the board, even though it seems like a small detail, because I think a theme in this presentation is that Mr. Bryant is someone who is trying to do right and who is going to benefit from just a little bit more structure. These final points, the points that Mr. Lars has addressed already. But when it comes to some of the back and forths like that, because I know there are police reports involved, I want to be clear on behalf of Mr. Bryant that Mr. Bryant's attempts to clarify these things are not an attempt to dodge accountability or responsibility. It's that Mr. Bryant has been in a confusing situation and one that he's trying to learn how to navigate. It's something that Miss Guy said is that he's learning in real time how to navigate these things. I have had the privilege to work with Mr. Bryant for quite some time now. Mr. Bryant mentioned that he's been in for almost 4 months now. I would, of course, bring the board's attention to the fact that almost 4 months is basically the entire lifespan of his child so far. He had 3 weeks out with his child, but the majority of his child's life has been while Mr. Bryant has been incarcerated. But over this, 4-month time period, including 3 months where the case has been refused and we've just been preparing for this, I've gotten to know Mr. Bryant as someone who's funny, who's mature, who is a genuine pleasure to talk to, and it's my treat to work with him and with Miss Guy. But also Mr. Bryant is someone who, according to the pretrial services report I have, was first incarcerated when he was 16 years old. And he got out, had a time on the street, but ultimately mistakes got him back in. I think it's because Mr. Bryant is someone who was asked to grow up in DOC and was not necessarily afforded the perspective that some of us who've had the privilege of growing up on the outside have about what situations to avoid, what might lead to trouble. The instincts, as board member Wise noted, to know that your number one priority has to be you do not end up on a police report, even if it means a gun is pointed on your face at a bus stop. These instincts, I think, are something that Mr. Bryant has accumulated over time. I think Ms. Armstrong spoke to that when she talks about how stunned she is by his maturity since even 2015. What I mean to say is that Mr. Bryant is someone who has matured in real time. And I think it's noteworthy that what we're here for today is 2 allegations stemming from 1 police report. And I'm going to dive into the substance of those in a second. But I know the board knows that very, very often what you see coming up to this board is a new allegation, but also a litany of other things that have been troublesome on supervision. Failure to pay, failure to update an address, failure to check in. And I think it speaks volumes that none of these things are here. And actually that Mr. Bryant has a really strong relationship with his supervision. That's because Mr. Bryant is doing what he needs to do. And ultimately, while we do contest the veracity of these allegations, it is undeniably true that Mr. Bryant went to the house to pick up his stuff. And as the board's noted, that is something that he knows now that he should not be involved in. When there's a toxic situation, you step away. That's not us conceding that he acted criminally, but also we know that life on supervision means going above and beyond not breaking the laws. It means staying out of trouble. That's something we've talked about, and that's something I have supreme confidence that Mr. Bryant's going to be able to do. I want to go briefly into the accusations because that's ultimately what I'm here for today as the lawyer. And just say, first and foremost, that at the preliminary hearing, Mr. Bryant's agent provided us with documents from his field reports and from his working with Mr. Bryant, and also from people in Mr. Bryant's community. One of the things that was entered into the record at the preliminary hearing was a statement from the complainant in the case that we're here for today. The complainant indicated that ultimately she was the aggressor and that she fabricated certain details of this report because she knew it would get Mr. Bryant in trouble. I don't know whether or not she specifically said this in the statement, but something that's also an elephant in the room with the timeline of this case is that Mr. Bryant's decision to go get his clothing from his ex-girlfriend's apartment coincided almost exactly with when Miss Armstrong had started publicly announcing on Instagram that she was pregnant with Mr. Bryant's child. I think it was a very sensitive time, a time of transition for Mr. Bryant's new family, but also something that understandably brought up old emotions. And I think the elephant in the room, and something that is underlined by the complainant's statement that was provided to the parole officer, is that Mr. Bryant is in the community and it is known that he is on parole. And both Mr. Bryant and everyone in his community knows that one thing you are not allowed to do when you are on parole is have a firearm. I say that because the police report ultimately alleges that Mr. Bryant had a firearm. He's never charged with having a firearm, but I know the allegation is of grave seriousness to this board because having firearms while on supervision is a big deal and it is obviously impermissible. I want to bring the board's attention to the fact that people who are, for instance, willing to exaggerate or fabricate details to NOPD in a moment of frustration are also literate with the law to the point where they know that a firearm is the number one no-go. Because I know the board is going to be concerned about those allegations. I would be concerned about those allegations. And I really want to hammer home the fact that there was absolutely no substantive evidence to show that Mr. Bryant had a firearm. I would note that Mr. Bryant was robbed at gunpoint in the past and evidently did not have a firearm to defend himself. I want to note that Mr. Bryant is someone who is following the steps he needs to take. And you as the board do not need to worry about the possibility of Mr. Bryant having a firearm. He knows better. It is unfortunate that people in the community knew that that is something that could make him look worse, but those allegations were recanted. They were never charged, not just refused, never charged by the district attorney's office. And ultimately, even the allegations of battery against a dating partner were refused well within the 30 days that the district attorney's office has to decide. They were refused expeditiously because the person who had put out the police report understood that Mr. Bryant, a new father, did not deserve to be in jail on allegations that were either fabrications or exaggerations. But to go back to Mr. Bryant, and then I'll wrap it up for the board. Mr. Bryant, like I said, is a thoughtful person. He is someone who is proud of the life he has built. He's proud of having 2 jobs. He's proud of being in a stable relationship. He's proud of having a new child, and he was proud to be a stepfather to the child that he had in his life in the first place. He is someone who has a strong relationship with his parole officer and who has been a really strong, a strong parolee and someone who I believe is an example of situations in which parole works. He's been able to get back on his feet. He's been able to accomplish his supervision needs. He's someone, like I said, who was 16 when he was first arrested, and supervision has given him a chance to grow up on the outside, to contribute to society, to have a real chance at a meaningful life, a beautiful family, and all the things that you and I cherish in our lives. He has matured into a man, a father, someone with a job, someone who is ready to succeed, and someone now who's going to have the support of Mr. Lars, who is beyond capable at helping people post-release, helping people land on their feet, helping people turn into the men that they want to be. And so with all these things, I would ask that the board give Mr. Bryant another chance, give him a chance to return to his jobs, to return to his family, return to Miss Armstrong, who has taken the time out of her day to come vouch for Mr. Bryant and who has been among the most active of partners I've ever worked with. I have the utmost faith that Mr. Bryant is going to be in good hands, whatever the board sees fit, whether that is the programming we have suggested, whether it's supplementing that with domestic violence classes. I think we have things to tinker with on the fine edges. Mr. Bryant knows now any situation that could lead to trouble is not a situation to be in. But ultimately, I don't feel that allegations have been made out against Mr. Bryant that deserve to jeopardize his freedom. I think this is a learning opportunity, something that everyone is going to grow from, but ultimately that Mr. Bryant deserves a chance to be a father to his child.
Thank you, Mr. Lubin. We appreciate your comments, sir. Panel ready to vote?
Executive session.
Okay.
I second.
There's been a request, a motion for executive session. Please call the roll.
Mayor Bello.
Yes.
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 There has been a motion and a second and a unanimous vote to go into executive session to discuss matters of a confidential nature. We'll be at recess shortly. We'll return to resume this hearing. The Committee on Parole is called back to order. I think the board is ready to vote. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Bryant,
Sir?
Mr. Bryant,
Yes, sir.
I'm waiting for you to come on the screen.
I'm here.
Well, you're there, but we're trying to get you on our screen. There you go.
Exactly.
Nothing you were doing. We got it.
Mr. Bryant, listen to me, please. You have a lengthy history of domestic abuse. We're not gonna dispute that. I think the New Orleans Public Defender's Office has a plan. And I'm going to acquiesce to that plan. But I'm going to add some conditions to your parole. And I'm going to vote to do not revoke your supervision. But I'm going to add these conditions to your parole. If these conditions are not met in a timely fashion, I'm going to put a notation to your parole officer to arrest you and put you before this board once again. Condition number one, you must complete the 26-week Bebop program immediately after release. That is the Domestic Violence Offender Program. There is a 26-week program. Orleans Parish, your counselor can get you enrolled, and you must complete that program. Second condition, you must follow all recommendations of that program. Third condition, you to have no contact, verbally, physically, social media, texting with Ms. Chandel Huntdog. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Bryan, you presented a very good case here today. Your arms is folded. Are they frozen? No, they're not frozen. Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am. It's just kind of cold. It's really cold in this building.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you helped me to know. Okay, I concur with Mr. Roche. My vote is the same for the same reasons. This gonna require some juggling on your part as a young man. You know, you got a girlfriend, you got a young baby, you got a job, and now you got to go to a class. Then after you get through the class, they're gonna want you to start mentoring, peer mentoring with First 72. So there's gonna be some engagement in your life. I just want to encourage you to figure it out. Don't get exasperated. Keep the phone numbers in your phone. When you can't make an appointment, call somebody, let them know. Keep them in tune. You've been doing well with your parole officer. This is gonna be the same thing. Best wishes to you, young man.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Bryant, let me say that when I read your file and I came here this morning, I was not likely to vote to not revoke you. That's why we have hearings. That's why we want to look people in the eye. We want to hear what they have to say. We want to hear what their supporters have to say. After hearing everything today, I'm convinced that your biggest problem is your poor judgment. And hopefully these programs that are being put in place will help you with that judgment. So my vote likewise would be not to revoke, with the following conditions. You are to immediately enroll in a 26-week DDoC program. I think CADA is what Mr. Lubin had suggested, or Mr. Lars had suggested is available to you. You need to get in that program and you need to follow all of their recommendations. You're to have no contact with the alleged victim in this case, and then you are to also follow the public defender's plan that they have set out. If that means going to First 72, whatever that plan is, you need to follow that plan. Do you understand all of those things?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, board. Hope you all have a happy Halloween.
Thank you, board members.
You close out here.
We're finished at Orleans. Thank you very much, Officer Tate.
All right, y'all have a good day.
You too.